How's it going, guys? My name is Dane Carboy here from a Young Sabonis, and I have a game preview for you today with the Milwaukee Bucks and the Portland Trail Blazers. With me is Eric Benning of Brewhoop. How's it going, Eric?
Good, good.
And I also have Cole Patty with me from Hickory High. How's it going, Cole?
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Ready for this game. So I wanted to kick it off with a question to Eric, actually. I wanted to, Milwaukee has lots of players that are going to be out for injury. And Portland is kind of firing on all cylinders. What do you expect to see in terms of rotation and how they're going to deal with the Blazers?
Well, I guess the hope, as in the Bucks camp right now, is that they don't really deal with it well. I'm kind of hoping to slide back and get a good pick. But I think the latest news was that Ersan's coming back and Butler is probably going to start. So I guess they're just kind of hoping to finally get some guys healthy for a change and just to actually see what the rotation will look like. 'Cause, I mean, since the start of the season, they haven't really had a healthy roster whatsoever. So I guess with these guys coming back, we really don't know what it's going to look like. But I think the goal for at least tomorrow's game is to integrate those two guys back into the rotation and see what works and what doesn't.
Sure. Yeah, and one of those guys that Milwaukee's really getting into the fore is Nate Walters. And Cole wrote about this in our preview a little bit. And Cole, what can you tell us about him?
He was a second-round draft pick, and he's out of San Diego State. I think he's the team's leader in minutes per game. No, he's right behind O.J. Mayo. And he's a really steady point guard. He doesn't turn the ball over. He's a good ball handler at 6'5", and he's done exactly what Milwaukee's wanted him to do, which is just don't turn the ball over, make plays when needed. He doesn't necessarily make the highlight plays, but he doesn't make any dumb mistakes, and that's
Sure.
what I've really liked about him.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that they have somebody to step in there when they have their two biggest ball handlers from last year leave the team entirely. So.
Mm-hmm.
What about down low? How do you guys think that Henson and Machulia are going to match up with the Blazers' front line? Not just the starting front line, but also Portland has a good backup in Joel Freeland there.
The thing that's really interesting is Pachulia is actually having probably his best year so far, and he's never been in a role like this, but he's actually filled it pretty solidly. He might even be the Bucks' best player right now, which is kind of why they're 2-7. This is a big matchup for Henson, though, because he's trying to be a defensive player, stopper on defensive end, and he'll have Aldridge, who's been an all-star and has a wide array of offensive skills. So it'll be interesting to see how Henson steps up.
Yeah, that's sort of the one that I'm most interested in, is because LaMarcus is playing incredibly, incredibly well in the first 11 games of the season. And Henson's a young player, and he does want to be that defensive guy down at that spot. And Mark's going to be a test. He's going to have him all over the court. So
Right. And with Henson, I don't know if it's a pattern or what, but he's been struggling on defense lately with switching out of pick and rolls and making sure he's getting out to whoever he's guarding, usually the 4. I know he struggled with, I think it was Ibaka, and he had a little bit of difficulty with Dirk, but that's, it's Dirk. So it'll be interesting to see how he matches up defensively against Aldridge more so than the other end of the court.
Yeah.
What kind of offensive sets have the Bucks been running? I watched their first game, and they really didn't know exactly what they were doing on the offensive end. Could you?
I wish I could.
They still don't really have it figured out?
No, they really don't, just because I think a lot of it has to do with everyone being in and out of the lineup, so they haven't really been able to get anything set. They've run horns a couple times with Zaza and Henson, because they both are, I don't know, average or maybe a little bit above average passing from the high post, but it's really just kind of been, at least in late games, it's been get the ball to Butler and Mayo and then hold your breath kind of thing.
Yeah, they're probably going to get a good teaching lesson from the Blazers because Terry Stotts runs a Horns offense mostly. Most of the sets you're going to see are going to be Horn sets with those posts real high, and they run lots of variations on play, which is really confusing, especially as teams play the Blazers over and over again. They think they're going to come out of the timeout and run a play because a guard is going this way and a post is going this way, and it ends up being there's 3 options on that play, and they pick something else and they just get lost. So yeah. What about OJ Mayo? I'm actually kind of interested about that. How has he been playing? He finally got. We thought he was going to get a spot last year in Dallas, and that sort of happened. Remember the first 12 games or something? OJ Mayo wasn't that bad, and then he kind of just sort of progressed to the mean, whatever you call it. Yeah.
Is he still shooting 55% from 3?
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. His true shooting percentage, I can't remember what it is. I think it's 63. I want to say. I think one of our writers, Dan Sinclair, wrote about it today. But he's just on fire from 3, but he's just sucking it up from 2, and hopefully the regression to the mean isn't too bad. But he's the best option we have, so you gotta let him shoot or something. It's sad.
His problem against the Blazers is actually going to be on the defensive end, trying to contain Wes and Matthews.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, probably.
Wes is bombing from 3 lately. He pretty much can't be stopped, and I'm not sure if OJ is the kind of the person that really wants to put in real effort on that end. So
it depends.
Yeah, I think for Portland, as far as sets go, I think that an easy way for them to get buckets in this game is going to be to shoot 3s on the break. Milwaukee is allowing a pretty healthy average of 3-pointers in percentage off of the break, and they're going to have more athletes on the floor than Milwaukee's going to. Quite frankly, it might be pretty easy for them to get out. So.
True.
Yeah. True. So why don't each of you give me a matchup to watch for? Cole, I'll let you go first.
I'm interested to see what Chris Middleton does. He was a second-round pick last year, ended up being kind of a throw-in in the Brandon Jennings trade. Got thrown into the starting lineup this year, and he hasn't been bad. He played really well against Orlando, and he's playing Nick Batum, who's actually had a really good year, like everyone else on the Blazers. So it'll be interesting to see how he stacks up with him. So.
Yeah. Eric, what about you? What are you looking for in this game as far as a matchup goes?
I'm gonna go a little bit off beat and go with Walters against Lillard. Obviously Lillard's gonna do a little bit better than Walters. I don't know, maybe. But it's interesting to see when Walters went against Kyrie. Obviously there's a mismatch, but I guess it was interesting to see how Nate adapted his game when he was against Kyrie, because obviously, like I said, it's a mismatch. But Nate didn't really try to do too much to go toe-to-toe with Kyrie, so I'm interested to see, with another good point guard coming in, if he just plays within himself again and is able to do anything defensively to at least limit Damian.
Sure. Yeah, I think for me, the matchup that I have isn't really one-on-one matchup. It's actually going to be watching how Mo Williams and Wes Matthews do. They're both playing really, really good during this 7-game win streak, and they both have histories, and they play pretty well against the Bucks. They have histories in the state of Wisconsin, at least, with Wes and Marquette, and Mo being, of course, a former star for the Bucks. So that's what I'm looking for to sort of sustain Portland. Hopefully they don't end up getting into one of those games again where they sort of lose it at the end of the third, let them get close, and then win by 9, but didn't feel that impressive. Hopefully they don't have this kind of trap game mentality for this game. I don't think that's the case.
If there's a part of OJ Mayo really struggles on defense, he doesn't really fight through screens. Mm-hmm. And so the Blazers could get a ton of points off the Matthews flare screen that's been so successful this year.
Yeah, personally, I think Wes goes off in this game. He's playing angry. We saw reports from, Travel yesterday that said he's playing angry. LaMarcus said he's never seen him with this kind of attitude before, and it's showing. He's not only shooting well from 3, he's driving to the bucket. He's making shots, which, to be perfectly honest, sometimes he's out of control and doesn't actually finish at the rim that well. He gets stripped a lot on drives. That's not happening this year. He's shooting well from mid-range. Wes has kind of been a more complete player than most people think that he sort of is on paper, which is good. All right, guys. Why don't I get a prediction for each of you for this game? Let's start with Eric.
I kind of predict that the Bucks fall into their pattern so far this year. They fall behind early, maybe like a 15, 20-point deficit at halftime, make a little charge, and eventually they just don't have enough and they fall short. I'll say by 8 or 9.
Sure. How about you, Cole?
I want to say it's a trap game, but Milwaukee's too hurt for me to say that, so I'll say something like Blazers 103, Bucks 97.
Sure. Yeah, I think the Blazers will be a little bit tired. I think that sounds about right. I'm thinking, 101, 91, something like that. I do think there's a possibility to have the same kind of thing we've seen against other teams where the Blazers jump out to a lead, it gets a little bigger, and then somewhere around 4 minutes left in the third quarter, they start turning the ball over, they let them go on a run. Same thing happens to start the fourth. They have a bunch of fourth quarter turnovers, and but then they end up sealing it down low with LaMarcus in the last 6 minutes. Damian Lillard hits a three, something like that, and you win by 10. So that's certainly been the case this year. That they've done that a lot. Last week, actually, the Blazers had 45% of their turnovers for the entire week happen in the fourth quarter. So Bucks may get a little bit of a hope at the end of the game.
Yeah.
So, well, thanks for coming on, you guys. I appreciate it, and see you tomorrow at the game.
Sounds good.
Thank you.